iPhone camera lenses, practical tool that can make you better or marketing gimmick? Today I wanted to find out. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So like most of y'all, last Black Friday, I got bombarded with advertisements. They were all over my social media, all over my email, and I ignored 99% of them. But one caught my attention. It was for these iPhone camera lenses. Now, I've known about these lenses for years, and in the back of my mind, I've always been curious if these are something that can actually help my photo and video when I'm creating with an iPhone. And that curiosity got the best of me, and I picked up 3 of these to try out in today's video and hopefully help any of you who are iPhone creators. Maybe you're just starting your content creation journey and all you have is an iPhone and you're wondering if this is something that you should pick up and add to your kit to make your creations better. Now, these are all by the company Moment. Now, I got an Anamorphic lens that is a 1.33 magnification. I got a telephoto lens that is a 58mm, and I got a fisheye lens that is a 14mm. This one I was really excited to try out. I also got a case that allowed me to mount the lenses to the camera. You have to have this. Now, in the grand scheme of creative gear, this wasn't super expensive, so I can understand why lenses like this are enticing to people who are beginners or iPhone only users, because it feels like a transition into more expensive equipment like DSLR or mirrorless cameras. This is like the bridge. Now, in today's video, I'm going to go over my experience with each one of these lenses, and at the end, I'll give my overall thoughts on these lenses in general and if there's something you need for photo and video. Now, quick housekeeping note, do me a solid, hit the thumbs up button on today's video if you enjoy it, if it helps you out. This was a very tedious video to make, creating all of these examples, putting the lens on and off the camera, and also if you see these formulas next to the photos in today's video, that is how the edits were made on the photos. That is my preset module from evanramp.com. It's something I use in all these YouTube videos and my social media to help y'all get an accurate representation of how edits are made. I hate traditional presets because we all know you put them on your photos and then you tweak them and it's not one size fits all. By me having these formulas, it allows me to share a real breakdown of how different looks were made. So if you want to support the channel and get some looks onto your photos that emulate the edits in this video, you can go pick that up at evanramp.com. I'll link it in the description down below. Now, the first lens we have to talk about is this gold flare anamorphic lens by Moment. Now, with this lens, I was extremely skeptical going into this video, and I was extremely skeptical after my initial testing, but I made a huge mistake that's actually a great lesson for any of y'all who's watching this video. I'll talk about that in a second. First, let me explain what an anamorphic lens does in a nutshell. Essentially, an anamorphic lens allows your sensor to be optimized in a different way. The lens squeezes your footage or your photos and allows you to capture this widescreen cinematic effect that you would typically see in something like a movie. And also with anamorphic lenses, you have this flare effect that happens when light enters directly into the lens, resulting in this very unique visual character that you can only get with this lens on your iPhone or on a mirrorless or cinema camera. And when it comes to depth of field, there's also some benefits to an anamorphic lens, but because we're shooting on an iPhone, it's not as relevant today. Now, this lens, while I was skeptical, ended up delivering exactly what you would expect. Anamorphic photo and video straight from your iPhone, making this something that I think is a valuable tool for anyone looking to potentially upgrade their photo or video capability without investing in a cinema or mirrorless camera. But the important lesson here, and the lesson that I learned the hard way, is to get the most out of these tools, you have to understand how to use the tool properly. I think as creators, we have this really bad tendency to think by buying a new piece of gear, it's immediately going to make us better, when in reality, we have to learn how to use it. And when it comes to this anamorphic lens, you have to use the Moment app that corresponds with it. You see, because this is made by Moment, there's an app that allows you to operate the camera on your iPhone, and you can select a picture profile for any of the lenses you're using from Moment. And when you select the picture profile that corresponds with this anamorphic lens, you get footage that is automatically de-squeezed when it's exported from the app, meaning you don't have to do any work in post-processing and the footage looks the way it's supposed to look. The same thing applies to photo. If you use the app for your photography, you get nice de-squeezed widescreen looking anamorphic photos. The caveat to this is the fact that these photos will not be RAW. This is not compatible with RAW photography on the iPhone. You can only shoot in JPEG. The important lesson here, and the lesson that I learned, is not everything is plug and play. You have to understand how to use a tool properly to get the most out of it. So if you're someone looking to buy this, just be aware that there is a learning curve and it could take you a little bit of time to get used to it to get the most out of it. But it's definitely not a gimmick. This is a really powerful tool if used correctly. The second lens is this 14mm fisheye lens. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how a fisheye lens works, essentially this lens completely changes the style of your scene. It allows you to capture more of the scene by distorting the edges, creating this almost larger than life circular look to your photos. And personally, I absolutely love this effect. Notice how this photo of me in my office has so much more of the scene and looks so much more interesting when I have the fisheye lens on compared to the photos made with the native wide-angle lens on the iPhone. And when you take this out to a scene that has a lot of lines, you'll notice how these lines are curved, giving this very unique look to your photos. Now, depending on the situation you're in and how you want to use this lens, this might not be something you want. If you don't want this curved line look, you probably are better off going with the native camera on your iPhone for wide-angle images. But if you want to stylize your photos a little more, especially if you're doing something like portrait or lifestyle or documentary photography, this could be something that is very cool to throw on your iPhone to give an effect that is not possible with the iPhone camera. And that right there is why I would recommend this to someone who's interested in this look. You cannot get this style of image with the iPhone traditionally. Now, with that being said, this lens does have some slight issues when it comes to clarity in my testing. This might not be the case for everyone. What I found was I was unable to get a crystal sharp image, especially when I compared it to the native wide-angle camera on the iPhone. The photos I captured with the iPhone wide-angle lens just looked sharper, they handled light better, but they weren't fisheye images. So you do give up a little bit of quality when you're using this lens, but you gain an effect that you otherwise would have no access to. So I have to recommend this. This was really cool, and it's probably going to be the thing from this video that I use the most going into the future. Now, one note with video, this didn't work great for video. And the reason why is because to capture video and get that fisheye effect, you have to be using the native lens on your iPhone. So you're at one-time magnification. When you're at one-time magnification in video, the stabilization is not as good as when you're just using the wide-angle camera for video. So in my test, I found it made more sense to use this on a tripod for video if you want that fisheye effect. But if you're doing anything handheld, it's better to just use the wide-angle camera built into the iPhone because all that stabilization is in there and the footage looks much more clean. Now, the last lens I tried out is this 58mm telephoto, and I'm going to be honest, this didn't really do anything for me. In all the testing I did, it was very difficult to determine a difference between this lens and photos made through the iPhone camera lens at a 2x zoom. They look almost identical. The only difference is that with this lens, you did get a little bit more depth of field. I did like that bokeh effect you could achieve, but a lot of these images were soft, especially when you zoom in on them. I found that for the most part, there wasn't a huge difference between using this lens and using the iPhone. So this is the one thing from this video that I really can't recommend for the most part. I just didn't see a point in this, especially with the advancements in all the iPhone telephoto technology we've had in the last couple years. Maybe if you have an older iPhone and the zoom is not as good, this could be something you check out. But if you have an iPhone 14 Pro or 15 Pro, didn't really make sense for me. And before I get my final thoughts on these lenses, the user experience, and how these fit into the current content creation world that we're all trying to navigate, I want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. If you're a creative business, maybe you're just using your iPhone right now and you're looking to take things to the next level, the next practical step is building a website, and no one makes it easier than Squarespace. My website, evanramp.com, does a number of things for my business. One, it allows me to showcase my work through a portfolio that I built all by myself. It also allows me to sell products like my presets as well as my recent photo book Memento, and I can connect with my audience with email marketing tools. And each one of those things is something I've gone over in separate videos on this channel to help you all out. I'll go ahead and link each one of those in the description down below. Now, the best part about Squarespace is they remove the overwhelming feelings that most people have around building a website. Most people think they have to jump through hoops by working with a web designer or a web developer to get a good looking site, but not with Squarespace. On Squarespace, you can use drag and drop templates to build a beautiful custom website all by yourself with no experience. And I'm speaking 100% from my own personal experience because evanramp.com was built by yours truly. I've never hired anyone to work on that site, and I love the way my website works, and I love having complete control over it. So what I recommend is going to squarespace.com/evanramp, start a free trial, follow one of those tutorials I have linked down below to help you speed up your website building process, and when you're ready to sign up and send your site live, use code evanramp to save 10% at checkout. That's squarespace.com/evanramp to start a free trial and use code evanramp to save 10% at checkout. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So when it comes to iPhone camera lenses, first, I want to talk about the user experience. With these lenses, it's not the easiest thing to use. It's not like these can easily fit into your pocket. Maybe if you're wearing a hoodie, you can keep it on there, but if you're wearing jeans or something like that, you're most likely going to have to take the lens off and continue to put it back on, which for most people might not be a big deal, but for me, it did kind of remove some of the fun and spontaneousness that comes with using an iPhone camera. That is the main reason why people love using them, is convenience, and when you have a giant lens attached to it, some of that convenience is removed. Is it the end of the world? Definitely not, but it is something to be aware of. Overall, with these lenses, I think the key takeaway here is that these are something that you need to be intentional with. You have to understand why you're getting them in the first place. If you're someone who buys the Anamorphic Lens, you know that you are looking for that specific flared look that you get from the lens. This isn't going to magically make your videos better, but if you understand how to use it, you can get better video. And the same goes for the Fisheye Lens. If you're using this, you need to understand what you're doing to your photos and understand how this effect can impact certain images. If you want clean line wide angle photos, this is not the thing you want to use. But if you want really cool, unique looking photos from a perspective that you couldn't capture normally with an iPhone, this could be something you consider. There is one other thing I want to try out, which is this Cinebloom filter. I think this is going to be great for night photography. I don't want to open it up and have it fly everywhere. This is something I'm very curious to try out, so let me know if you want me to make a night photography video testing this and giving my thoughts. And one last note about this video, if you're looking to get a better result with your iPhone or iPhone lenses, I highly recommend picking up some type of mount like this. These are really cheap. You can attach your tripod plate to it, put this on a tripod or something like a simple desk tripod to get really unique vantage points and get the most out of your iPhone photo and video. But that's it for me today. I'll catch y'all in the next one. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe. Feel free to pick up my book or the preset module if you want to support the channel. And if you get the presets, like I said, those are featured in all the upcoming videos and social media posts, so you can get long-term value from those. I'll see y'all in the next one.